How low can you go? That's the question some are asking after somebody doctored that touching video of two little boys hugging and posted it with the offensive caption, "Terrified toddler runs from racist baby." And to make matters worse, President Trump retweeted it to his 82 million followers. Here's the latest on the offensive post.
President Trump is under fire today for reposting this doctored video of two adorable children. The original recording shows the toddlers embracing each other on the street in New York City. It went viral last year and warmed the hearts of millions across the USA. But now it's being altered to have a different meaning. The doctored version that President Trump tweeted contains this falsified CNN headline reading, "Terrified toddler runs from racist baby." The point of the video was to make a satirical political statement about fake news, which is one of Trump's major talking points, particularly when attacking CNN.
He was making a point about CNN specifically. He was making a point that CNN has regularly taken him out of context.
But now the parents of little Maxwell seen in the video are expressing outrage. He will not turn this loving, beautiful video to further his hate agenda, Michael Cisneros says of Trump. So, who doctored the video? It was apparently created by a Trump supporter named Logan Cook, whose own bio calls himself eternally sarcastic. He writes, "Content that I post was doctored by me." This comes on the heels of another Trump social media uproar after Facebook removed campaign ads featuring a red upside-down triangle. The symbol was once used by Nazi Germany to identify political opponents, and Facebook said it was violating our policy against organized hate. However, the Trump campaign defended its use, saying this is an emoji. It's also a symbol widely used by Antifa. It was used in an ad about Antifa. It's been a turbulent week for the president, and in an effort to bring some positive press, he sat down for an interview with his son, Don Jr., for a Father's Day special of his podcast, Triggered.
With Father's Day coming up, we have a great opportunity to sit with the most powerful father in the world.
The president issued a warning about what he believes will happen if Joe Biden is elected.
There will be tremendous negative growth. There will be tremendous bedlam all over the place. There won't be law and order. You'll have a Seattle. You'll have a Minneapolis like you've never seen before. The whole country will be Minneapolis.
It was around this time 4 years ago that I was at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, and I remember asking then Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn about something I had seen all over the convention that struck me about Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. When you see shirts around here or buttons that use the word bitch to describe her, the degree of that's like Trump shirts, Trump that, does that, how do you feel about that? I feel like
Have you read my Twitter feed or my Facebook page? It kind of comes with the territory, and you just have to shake it off. Great Taylor Swift song by that title. You should go listen to that. So you sort of feel like being a woman in the public sphere comes with that kind of invective. You wouldn't believe what all I've been called and what's been said to me in my career, whether it was in the private sector or in the public sector. Go read my Twitter feed.
Then Congressman Blackburn clearly did not really have a problem with it, but the anti-Hillary Clinton merchandise available at the Republican convention everywhere you went was truly horrifying and disgusting. Things like T-shirts with cartoons showing Hillary Clinton being sexually assaulted. It's why I found this observation from Washington Post reporter Dave Weigel about the Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Saturday so interesting. Quote, vendors sold almost no merchandise that mentioned Joe Biden specifically. Almost nothing mentioning the president's opponent this time around. No obscene T-shirts with Joe on them. No Biden for prison stickers. You know what was available? Hillary Clinton merch. In 2020, 4 years later, they are still selling all the anti-Hillary Clinton stuff. So what if that simple observation is the key to the fundamental structure of this entire presidential election right now? That after 8 years of a black president and the first female major party in the presidential nominee, Donald Trump's particular kind of culture war just is not working against an old white man named Joe Biden. We might be seeing that reflected in the polling. A new national poll out today has Joe Biden up by a staggering 14 points. And while Trump is losing among all the groups you would expect him to, he's losing among women and among black voters, he's also losing support among traditionally Republican-leaning groups like white seniors. But it is weird just how much Donald Trump appears to want to run against Hillary Clinton or run against President Barack Obama in the year 2020. It's particularly weird given that Obama, for instance, is one of the most popular politicians in America. He is also not running this year. But there is a sort of method that Trump is reaching for here, right? Because he knows his own political rise was a product of a certain kind of white male backlash, and he is struggling to reproduce that while running against Joe Biden. Adam Serwer writes this week in The Atlantic, these kind of poll numbers that we're seeing are not an accident. Quote, after 12 years of feasting on white identity politics with a black man and a woman as its preeminent villains, the Republican Party is struggling to run its Obama-era culture war playbook against an old, moderate white guy. And Adam Serwer, who wrote that great piece, joins me now. I love this essay. It sort of captured a lot of things that I've been thinking inchoately. What's the thesis here? What's your argument about what problem Joe Biden has presented Donald Trump politically?
Well, the Republican Party hasn't run against just a regular, like, moderate white guy in 16 years, or 12 years. They've been running against Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, ginning up these sort of weird, bizarre conspiracies that wouldn't stick to other people because, or that wouldn't stick to someone like Joe Biden because people give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a white guy. It sucks. It's just sort of the way that, you know, these underlying conceptions of race and gender shape our subconscious preferences as a country. But it's something that is giving Biden an advantage here over the last Democratic candidate who ran. You know, when you talk about something as visceral as like the T-shirts, Republicans can't quite convince themselves that a Joe Biden presidency would be the apocalypse in the same way that they were saying that a Hillary Clinton they were comparing Hillary Clinton's potential presidency to passengers storming a hijacked plane on 9/11. It's just that sense of complete apocalypse is just not there in the same way it was with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
It's such a good point. And there's a moment in the Tulsa rally that was really interesting where you can see this in Trump himself even having a hard time selling it, because the Trump argument that he has sold is that don't look at Joe Biden. He's just a puppet for these other shadowy characters that are, of course, very heavily coded along all these cultural war lines. But listen to what he says about Biden here.
Joe Biden is not the leader of his party. Joe Biden is a helpless puppet of the radical left. And he's not radical left. I don't think he knows what he is anymore. But he was never radical left.
Like, he was never radical left. Like, he can't bring himself to sell Joe Biden as radical left.
He can't even do it. I mean, this is what's so amusing about it, is that in part what's hampering the president here is his own prejudices. He can't bring himself. He doesn't want to run against Joe Biden. Yes. Joe Biden doesn't scare him. He wants to run against the squad, or he wants to run against Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. He wants a non-white or female villain to run against because he knows that that's something he can use to gin up his supporters into the kind of froth that he needs to have them turn out in large numbers. And Biden, and I have to say, you know, this was something that a lot of the African-American voters in the South anticipated when they chose Biden, was that he would be less threatening to Trump's base in particular. Yeah. He was a kind of olive branch in the culture war. Like, we understand you guys are freaking out about some stuff that is not that has to do with this incredible inversion of power that happened over the last 8 years, where we temporarily had one black president. And so we're going to try to bring the temperature down a little bit. And it seems to have been correct, at least against this particular candidate. I mean, I have to emphasize here, Trump only has one kind of politics that he knows how to do. So against a different Republican, I'm not sure that this would be happening the way that it's happening. But Trump is particularly inflexible. He's particularly ideological when it comes to race and gender. And he finds it very difficult to change tactics.
It's such a good point, and that primary point is one that I kept sort of being haunted by or thinking about as I read your essay, which is this, of course, was a front and center discussion in the entire Democratic primary, was about the question of electability and all kinds of Democratic primary voters trying to project the prejudices of other voters in sometimes really insidious ways, which was, well, I don't want to vote for this candidate who's a woman, or this candidate who's African American, or this candidate who seems too threatening, because that, you know, that will give Donald Trump. And part of the takeaway of your essay is like, people made a calculation that appears to have some validity to it.
So look, I mean, if you look at the generations of the older black voters who went for Biden in those numbers, these are people who remember the tremendous decades-long white backlash to the civil rights movement. They know how long these things can go. They know how bad they can be, and they have some sense of what triggers them. So it was a rational choice. It may not have been the choice that I would have made, but it's an understandable calculation, and it looks like a prescient calculation given, you know, what's occurring now. That's not to say that another candidate might not have been less vulnerable to this for other reasons, but in this case, what seems to be happening is that neither the president nor his supporters can get themselves to hate Joe Biden the way that they hated Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama for reasons that seem blindingly obvious.
I mean, we should also note, of course, that, you know, the country is objectively in the worst situation it's been in a very long time.
Yes.
And you can imagine a universe in which
many external factors.
Yes. But then that brings us to, how does he deal with that? And I found that, you know, he's been tweeting out these clips of, I mean, these really disgusting clips that are the kind of things that you would find on the front page of a white supremacist website like Stormfront or something, of, you know, random videos, sometimes, you know, 2 years old, of a black person violently attacking a white person. And it's real gutter, disgusting stuff, and really is like Stormfront content. And of course, the one thing that I think he will try to do is just gin up this sort of thing, even if it's not about particularly Joe Biden, but just like that's the one thing he knows how to do politically.
Look, again, there's so many, Trump is facing a lot of headwinds that are largely of his own creation. Obviously, there are external factors. We have unemployment is very high. We're dealing with a pandemic that has killed more than 120,000 people. We're dealing with an uprising over racial discrimination in policing. But Trump has handled all of those things poorly because he only knows how to approach them in one way. And the only way he knows how to approach these issues is to find some type of other to blame things on and then harness everybody's anger towards that subject. But when you're the incumbent president, when you're responsible for solving these problems, and all you're doing is blaming everybody else when you're the one who has the power to at least try to fix them, and you're not even really doing that, I mean, then, you know, it's not surprising that voters who might have been receptive to your message the first time are not as receptive 4 years later. Now, it's very early. As you mentioned, there are a lot of external headwinds that have to, you know, I don't want to overemphasize the importance of campaign strategy here, but for the moment, it doesn't seem to be working. And when you look at how Trump and his own most ardent supporters are reacting to Biden, one of the reasons is that they really cannot begin to see him as alien or threatening in the way that they saw Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
Yeah, and it is so striking the degree to which that sort of fuses the atmosphere of the race right now, such as it is. Of course, you're right that, you know, things can change. I keep saying this on the air that, you know, obviously we know how quickly things can change because we were all like hugging each other and hanging out in bars in January of this year. But the two things that do seem like they're not going to change, right, is the virus won't change. The virus is there, it's going to do, and Donald Trump won't change. And it's like, I keep coming back to those two things as the two fixed parts of where we are as a country right now, which is that virus is going to do what it's going to do and behave the way it behaves, and the president's going to do what he does and behave the way he does, and neither of them are going to change. And that is why we are in the middle of the sort of disaster that we're in right now.
Right. So, I mean, look, I think, you know, maybe the economy miraculously recovers. Maybe the virus, maybe there's some sort of external factor that changes the rate of infection with the virus, and it doesn't continue to like burn through the population at the rate it's burning through now into November. Maybe Joe Biden makes some sort of catastrophic mistake or unearths some terrible thing from his past. I don't know. It's 5 months. We've already had an economic collapse, an uprising against racist policing, and a pandemic. And we're like halfway through the year. So who knows what's going to happen between now and November. But for the moment, Trump has shown an inability to rise to the occasion.